remember writing down something like, I just feel like life is happening around me and everyone's moving on, but I'm stuck.
I think I am most curious to know how our almost Dr. Suga is here, as life coach Suga now.
What am I going to say why I want to become a doctor? Of course, I want to help people. And then I told them I want to know more about myself. Then they asked me, what do you mean?
So standing in front of a paper and recognizing that I had a choice, after all these years thinking I had a choice to decide what I wanted to do, I'm like, I just didn't know. I honestly didn't know.
And then he told us, if your answer is going to be to help people, please remember that you are cheating yourself.
And as Jay always says, keep opening the doors, it'll never be that one thing. Keep opening the doors and you'll know which one you need to walk into and which one will shut down for you.
Hey, it's your coach Suga here, one part of Clover Chat collaboration that evolved from 3 J coaches who came together to support each other's journey. The result is beyond our expectation as we grow together as human beings, as coaches, and as businesswomen. And it is our delight to share this with all of you where the impact is threefold. What am I doing in my life? Is this the right thing? I'm sure all of you have been in this place at least once, just like the three of us did. So today, join the Clover Chat coaches, Caryn and Dee and myself as we uncover our story for the very first time. See, here's the thing. This is not just another story, but these are the moments where we had doubts, where we thought, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right decision? Our highs, our lows, and our journey. And it is said that often greatness lies on the other side of fear, and that the most fulfilling paths are the ones that we carve out for ourselves. So today, I welcome all of you and two of my Clover friends, Caryn and Dee, for the second episode of Clover Chat, which is how we became who we are today. So let me start with Caryn. Caryn, tell me. So you were doing, if I'm not mistaken, you were on your corporate job and you were doing fine in that. And like how your journey from corporate world suddenly moved in the direction of coaching. I'm so curious to know.
I really want to share the story, and I think it's important to kind of recount it because I think it changes each time I do share it. But to do so, I'm going to invite you guys, if you don't mind, to think back to where you were in December 2020. And if it's not too sort of painful, I like to say, take a moment to think about where you actually were. Maybe you were working, maybe you were at home. You could be anywhere, right? But how were you feeling at that time? What challenges were you going through? What had you been through in that year? Maybe like me, you had experienced some losses, but at the same time, you may have gained some things out of that. And the reason why I ask you to reflect on this is because to share my journey, I would really love you to understand maybe a little bit about where I was at that point in time when things started to change for me, but probably unknowingly to myself. And so if you can imagine for a moment, I'm sitting in my apartment. I was living in Shanghai in China at the time, and we lived on the 31st floor. And it's December 2020 and it was winter. And if you've ever lived in a city like Shanghai, especially when you're on the 31st floor, when you look out the windows, you can only see infrastructure and buildings for as far as the eye can see. There's barely anything else you can see, particularly when there's like pollution as well. And we just got back, the kids and I had just got back probably about 2 or 3 months earlier from New Zealand, where we had been separated from my husband due to border closures because of COVID for about 8 months. So he was in China and the kids and I were with family, but in New Zealand. So without going into that too much, but you can probably get an understanding of maybe where I was at. So, when you're standing on top of a building and you're looking down and you can see below, in particular a place like China, and it's crazy busy. There's so many people around. There's always something going on and you're looking down and you're just seeing the world go by. And I'm sitting there looking down and I can see people moving and life is happening like normal. That's what it felt like. And I remember writing down something like, I just feel like life is happening around me and everyone's moving on, but I'm stuck. And I was thinking, I don't know why. And I honestly didn't know. And I remember writing this and thinking something has to change. And without knowing, I think I put out to the universe and I was like, I need help. But I didn't know this at the time that I did that. And fast forward maybe 2 weeks, there was this workshop with this professional women's society in Shanghai, and it was to do with performance development plans, or PDPs. And it was run by this woman who was a doctor in HR, I think, for this global company. And I was like, oh my goodness, yes, definitely go along to this. I need to figure out, maybe this is what it is. I need to figure this out. So I went with a friend of mine. And so I'm in this workshop, and we'd already worked out, we'd been asked, like, what are our qualifications? What is our experience? What is our strengths? What's our weaknesses? And I was at this question, which was, what jobs do you want? Now that you know all this, what jobs do you want to do? So me being me, I start writing down all the things that I've done, which is my jobs at the time were commercial operations manager for the region. So I'm writing down operations manager, commercial manager, I'm writing down accountant, because that's what I've done in the past, management accountant, finance manager, etc. And I look to my friend to the right, and she's a marketing director. That's her background. And I can see her writing down like surf lifesaver and nutritionist and ski instructor. And I'm like, I'm looking at her paper and I go, are you qualified to do that? And she's like, no, but this is what I want to do. And I'm like, yeah, but, and she's like, no, it asked us, what do you want to do? What jobs do you want? And I'm like, and I remember looking back at my paper and I'm like, do I want to do these jobs? And it was a definite, like, no, like definite. I do not want to do these jobs. These are the jobs I'm qualified to do or have the experience. And I realized at that moment, I'm looking, I don't want to do this. So I deleted everything and I'm staring at this page and it's blank. And I'm thinking, what do I want to do? So sitting in front of a paper and recognizing that I had a choice after all these years, thinking I had a choice to decide what I wanted to do. I'm like, I just didn't know. I honestly didn't know. And I remember, as it is, thank you, universe, I hear this woman. So she's an HR doctor, highly, like, this global head of whatever. And I hear her saying to someone else, I'm going to next train to be a coach. And for whatever reason, I heard that. And I was like, coach? Like, I knew in my job, I was coaching my team. And so I knew about that, and obviously sports team. But I'm like, she is a doctor. She is the head of this department, senior management, like huge, big deal in my eyes. And she wants to become a coach. Like, what's going on here? Like, what is this? And I was also thinking, like, you can make money from this? Like, what? And I listened to that. And I'm like, oh, you know what? That sounds cool. I'm going to write it down. So I wrote down that and several other things. And as we all know, now I know, is your reticular activator system, or your RAS, picks up on this curiosity. And as it would be, 2 or 3 weeks later, I started to see all this. I started attending webinars, 3 a.m. in the morning, 5 a.m. in the morning. I was hooked on this idea of what is this coaching and also personal development. And through that journey, I found Jay Shetty. And I had never heard of him before. I read his book, Think Like a Monk. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then I was on some webinar of his, and people started talking about coaching. And I was like, he does coaching too. And I downloaded, it was Chinese New Year 2021, and I downloaded his 6-day, I think, foundational course for free. And by day 3, I'm like, I have to do this. I don't know why, I just have to do this. It made absolute sense. And I enrolled for a call. At the time, they were taking enrollment calls, like quite long ones. And I was on this call with this person for an hour and a half. And I think I came off, and towards the end, he was like, well, absolutely want you, come off. And I remember getting off this call after enrolling, and I went to my husband, I just burst into tears. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm in. And he's like, what's going on? Like, what's going on? I'm like, no, I'm in. They chose me for me. They chose me. I didn't need a qualification. I didn't need this experience. I just had to share my story and why I wanted to do this and how I see making this impact in the world. And that was enough. And that was the moment when I signed up. And then obviously the rest became history, in the sense we moved from Shanghai to Singapore. And rather than, even though I was offered a job in what I was experienced at and qualified for, I said to my husband, I said, do you mind, could I try this out and see where I go with my own business? And he's like, yep, this is the time for you to do that. See, I didn't need permission from my husband, but having his support was really massive for me to have that and to be able to go on this venture and to see where it goes. And I'm so happy that I've done it. But at the same time now, it allows me to, what I shared with you guys, to help people in that same situation, not necessarily leave corporate space, but to recognize they have that choice. And that just because this is where they have the experience and qualifications, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but there are maybe other transferable skills, is the word that I've heard before, that you can move into other areas and still have the success that you want. So yeah, that's me.
I totally felt you, when you were asking us to go back in that time, even if it was for just our life and our situation, then I was there. Like I could feel you, that what you must have gone through. And perhaps every time you relive it now, you kind of go through it all over again, like when you think about it, kind of thing. So I would just say thank you for sharing it.
You're welcome.
It's yeah, it's a beautiful story to know, and what led you where you are now. Yeah.
D, I agree with you that Caryn's story was so beautiful, and I didn't expect that. Like, I didn't seriously expect that. But I'm also curious to know, like, now I know what, like, changed Caryn from moving from a corporate world to coaching. But you were a yoga instructor and a happy homemaker, I believe. And what drive you towards coaching then? Like, you could have chose to stay in your comfort zone, like, doing your thing, but what happened? Like, tell me what happened. I'm so, like, so curious.
Yeah, I like how you're starting this. Like, what happened to you? You were fine. Like, what made you, kind of thing? Like I was sharing before, pretty much the same thing that happened to Caryn, COVID. So actually, my journey also starts pretty much in the month of December, November 2020. We're still in the middle of COVID. Like, I know lockdowns had been reversed, but the world wasn't still, I would say back to before COVID timing, or how it was. So we take a 14-hour flight and we go from here to the US of A. Landing at the airport where we did, I just felt so liberated. So we go there, we reach there, we land, and all I remember, hearing in my mind and actually even stating out loud was that that's it. That's all it took. Like, sit in a plane for 14 hours and you're across the world on another continent. Like, we can do this again now. Like, this is possible. This was the narrative in my mind, and I remember being super quiet when we landed, and we were doing our bits and bobs, getting the car, going to wherever we were going. The questioning had started in my mind, like, what was my life before? What was I doing? Is this what I'm here to do? Those kind of things that we have now studied in the school were coming to my mind. And I think my search became a lot deeper then. Like, I was always the kind of person who was wanting to do more, live more, question myself as, um, what am I doing? Where am I heading? Why am I born? What's up? Am I just here to be a mom to someone, or a wife to someone, or a daughter to someone? Is that all that is there to me? Right. So we are driving towards the home that we were going to live in. We really thought initially we were going to be in the US for like a couple of weeks and then we'll head back home, right? But we are going there. And I remember very clearly the moment, sitting in that car. I, on a whim, went online and I registered the name that I have now for my coaching, which is Eat, Pray, Love Transit. I had no idea why I was doing it. I did not know what was going to come out of it. But something within told me that I need to do this. And I did it. And I was like, things will come around. I know that. But I just need to do this right now. And I think that sort of started or I would say that accelerated my journey of going inwards and figuring out stuff for myself then on. Yeah. We were in the US for about 8 months, and the questions kept rolling in my mind. A lot of them. I will not remember all of them right now. My mind was back home, thinking about the people in my home country and whatever they were going through back then, right? So I brought all of those thoughts back, I'd say, with me. And like as Caryn shared, the system right here, like from the back of your mind, things just came to the forefront. And you just started seeing stuff happening to you, coming to you. And that's when I chanced upon Jay's book, Think Like a Monk. And I think I had gotten to know of this person during the COVID time because of the things he did for my country back then. And that's when he came, I would say, into my radar. And I won't remember the exact moment as to when or where or how the shift happened, but something happened within. And one thing led to the other. And just like Caryn, I realized that this guy also has a certification school for coaches. I was like, oh my God, it was like life was suddenly coming into perspective for me because I got to know of this profession, let's just say it, called life coaching in 2016. My now coach was the coach that I got to know in 2016. And I was like, oh my God, there is something like this also in the world. And she was heading to the US back then to do some courses to enhance her knowledge, get more certifications. And I knew back then that I can't be doing this, And my daughter was 5 years old. And when this idea was put in my head in 2016, I was like, dude, yes, you want to do this? It's not possible. You live in India. These things are not going to happen. You're a mom to someone. And my husband's, work took him all across the world back then. He would hardly be here. He would be constantly a global citizen, I say. But I think somewhere that seed was planted and it had to sprout when it did. So, like I said, one thing led to the other. I got to know about Jay's school. Just like Caryn, I was attending all of these random webinars at my timing, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And nobody in the house knew what was I up to because I would just wake up, finish it, and go back to bed, Before they could start calling me cuckoo, I got COVID, right? So I'm quarantined now. So I have, I would say, all the more time in the world to kind of figure all of this out. One step after the other just kept telling me that you are on the right path, because the curiosity was there so much. Things were coming into my lap, I'd say, in terms of knowledge and information. I think when I chanced upon the Jay Shetty School, that became my bridge, from wanting those stars to how to get there. Like I would always find myself stuck somewhere in the middle, and I did not know where do I, need to go, which direction should I head and stuff. So I think the school kind of bridged that for me. I still took my time to get there. Like when I enrolled myself, I allowed myself a month at a time to be in it. Only after being, in the course for like about 3 months, I'd say I was 2000% sure that I've hit the nail on the head now, And just to close this and bring this all together, I always say Jay was a missing link for me. And I think the more I got myself involved, and like as Caryn said, we do a lot of work on ourselves when we are in the school, right? I started to realize I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Had this been an option for me, those 7, 8 years ago, I would not have been able to, kind of go through with it, right? And it's again, how you hear purpose in your life or your purpose of your life is never that one thing, or it's never that thing that comes to you in like one shot, right? It builds over stuff, it builds over years, right? So I think I always knew that my life had a meaning, and that meaning was, say, XYZ. But I felt to me that my purpose or how to get that done, or make my meaning more meaningful, was kind of missing. And as Jay always says, like, keep opening the doors. It'll never be that one thing. Keep opening the doors, and you'll know which one you need to walk into and which one will shut down for you. So I think for me, the school kind of opened those doors, and I haven't looked back since then. I know we all always share our, the wins and the good stuff, but we all know behind the scenes what we all are going through, have gone through, being on this journey. There are always ups and downs. But I think the fact that every time I fall down, I'm able to bring myself to get up and start all over again. Also with the help of you both, I would say, in my life, my safe space. It tells me again, it gives me the confidence, it gives me the hope that, no, you're fine. You'll go through with this and you'll come out. So I think that's what keeps me going. And every time that happens, I just bring myself to that point, of me being in that moment when I did not know why I was registering my name, but I just did it. So that is my story of being here with you guys. Let me just say that.
What I loved about what you shared is, and I wrote down, I was like, you were searching for your purpose. And we don't call it that. We don't go, I'm looking for my purpose. We are, what do I want to do? Why am I here? It's those questions we're asking. We're not saying, I want to know my purpose. And I think that we now know that's what we were maybe looking for. But anyone watching this now is probably not saying that. They're probably saying, what am I here for? What is that? And I feel like that moment when you said, I could resonate when you said that you got off the plane in the States and you were like, I feel liberated. I'm just like, oh my goodness, there's all these synchronicities, if that's the right word,
Yes.
that kind of just, that whatever reason, then for some reason we've met. Like, it's just like, this is crazy. Like, so thank you for sharing your story. I think it's so many people will resonate with that.
Oh, absolutely. I had goosebumps when I was speaking up about it, I'd say. And I didn't even realize this is how I'm going to feel. And perhaps this is the first time that I've shared my journey, even with my own self, let alone with you both or anybody else outside. It's always playing in your mind like a reel, but you're not like sitting and listening to yourself. It's just like going on, like you said, the example that you gave of the things coming from the back of your mind to the front into your, RES. I could actually see that and feel that. But going on from there, I think I am most curious to know how our almost Dr. Suga is here, as life coach Suga now. I think I'm most curious to hear about you, Sue. So, yes, on to you now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna shut up.
before I share my story, I want to say like the one thing, if like, the usual coaching question, what is the one thing you're taking back from your story? It keep ringing in my mind that bravery, the courage, that blind faith you had, that leap of faith you took. Like, you don't know what's going to happen, but you just had that courage to do whatever that you felt like doing and you did it. That was amazing, Dee. Like, seriously, like, be proud of
Thanks.
you, please.
No, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I never thought of it like that. And, like I miss mentioning this, like Caryn did. After COVID, things were different, but yet the fact that universe could support me through my husband to enroll myself in this course was pivotal in this journey. He took that, now that you're saying it, he took that leap of faith with, okay, if you feel this is what it is, please go ahead and do it. Like, I'm there with you. So I do need to say that. Had he not said that, had he not done that, I wouldn't have met you guys and been here. So yeah. So thank you for that reminder, I would say.
Let me break it to you both that December 2020, if my story had a climax, December 2020 was the climax period, which in which I made the decision to enroll myself into JCT certification school, and I attended the interview there and then in December 2020, and 2 days before Christmas I enrolled. So this is going to be like my story going backwards. Okay, what happened from December 2020? Before that, give us that before bit. I want to know that more. So that's just like, just wanted to surprise you both that our timeline collided so beautifully, which is like mind blowing. I can't process this. Like, seriously. So, coming to my story. So, I remember sitting in my medical interview, and the common question they always ask every candidate that wants to become a doctor is why you want to become a doctor, or why we should enroll you as a medical student. So, the cliche answer is always, I want to help people, and I remember before walking into this interview, thinking to myself that I'm not going to answer the cliche answer. I'm not give the cliche answer. So if I'm not going to say that, what am I going to say why I want to become a doctor? Of course, I want to help people. And then I told them, I want to know more about myself. Then they asked me, what do you mean? there's a lot of system working in within us, and I want to know more about them in detail. And from there, fast forward to my third year of course, I got through the interview and everything. And then, fast forward to my third year of medical school, which is my first clinical year. And we had these clinics where we have to attend and see patients and all this. Then after the clinic, our professor will come and tell us about each case and what we can do. It's like a clinical studies where there's practical, and then there will be the theory part. And then so in one of this class, after this one clinic, this professor, he's a neurosurgeon. After all this theory part and everything, I don't know why he wanted to talk to us about something that's beyond the theory. And then he asked us again the same question. Why do you all want to become a doctor? And I was like, this question again? At the middle of this journey? Like, why is he asking this now? And then, all of us, like, it was a group of 5 or 6 of us, and we were clueless. Like, why is he asking this question now? And then he told us, if your answer is going to be to help people, please remember that you are cheating yourself. That was like, excuse me? We are cheating ourselves? What do you mean? That was my candid reaction to it. And I'm like, this was all going on in my mind. What is he speaking about? Why is he saying that? So, me being me, I was so curious. I asked him, Prof, what do you mean? Then he said, you are telling me you want to help people, but think about it. Someone come to you with a disease, and you want to, let's say someone comes with a diabetes and they have their legs compromised already, and the best treatment you can give this person is by amputating his or her leg. And by doing that, are you really helping this person? Someone who was independent, now you're making him dependent for his whole life to someone or to something. And how are you even helping someone by doing this? That really strike me like, yes. And and pause there. It's like that question, that seed has been planted. That question stick with me for so long. And I've been like, every single day after that, I was like, am I really helping someone? Am I really helping someone? That was like, on my mind for the next 2 years. And fast forward, I was in my final year, and this situation happened where we were in our forensic lab. So I was observing with my friends, and that particular person that were being autopsy, police brought her body in for autopsy to know the cause of death. And as the doctors were doing the autopsy, I was casually telling my friend, like, what are they looking for? They are finding for the cause of death. Seriously? I think that died with the person. All they can do is all they can find out is what made her die. Like, could it be this? Could it be that? It's a medical thing only, but the actual reason what made her to take this decision died with her. And no one can know that decision, no matter how hard they try. And I was casually saying this, and after that, I was like thinking to myself, what did I just say? And yeah, the reason died with the person. And why she felt that way. Like she couldn't talk to someone. She couldn't open up to someone. And this is the best decision. And I was, all this was happening, and all this, internal monologue going on, that question that my professor asked, this incident where I casually told my friend the reason died with the person. And then, you know, one day, one afternoon, I came back after my theory paper, theory examination, which will qualify me to become a doctor. And then I was scrolling Insta because that was my so-called rest period. So I was scrolling Insta and I started following Jay much before. That one afternoon, I don't know why, I wanted to watch his stories. And as I was like, watching one by one. And then I stopped at this one story where he asked, "Are you a good listener? Are you always been complimented to be wise beyond your age? Then this is for you." I was like, yeah, that is me. This is also me. What is this about? Then I went ahead and did my research. That's my first introduction to coaching. All the while this question, all this wanting to help people and everything. In the process of becoming a doctor, I was losing myself. Like Caryn mentioned, when I was at that mark where I'm going to become a doctor, it wasn't me anymore. Like, I don't recognize myself anymore. And then still, I was like, okay, I've started it. Let me just complete it. So, I came across coaching. I felt like that could be my thing. But I was at this crossroad where I have an exam to sit. So I can't make a decision. So I thought, you know what? I'll put this on hold and I'll, come back to this after my examination. So I went ahead with my examination. I did the examination. And then I had like a 1 month break before we will know the result. So, in that 1 month break, I was like, so curious about coaching. I went ahead and, attended all these webinars from not just J School, but all other webinars that were there about coaching, and also took the 6 days pathways program. And then, but yet to make a decision whether I want to go ahead with this or not. So, and then on 18 December, I remember that was the results day. I was very confident that I would have cracked it up and I'm a doctor now. And, you know, all my friends' names were being called as successfully completed their studies, and my name was left out. Before I could process what was happening, it struck me once again that I didn't make it. And I was so frustrated. One, because I was very confident that I would have made it. Two, I postponed something that felt so dear to me, or something that was so meaningful for me just to complete this. But what is this happening? And I couldn't process any of that. After knowing that I failed my medical school, there and then I rang my dad. I told him that, you know what, I'm going to resit this exam and I'll pass it in 6 months' time. But I'm also going to enroll in this coaching program because this is me. This is what I want to do. And after that I attended the interview, and yeah, 6 months later I passed my medical examination, and I put that certificate aside and completed my coaching certification, and here I am as a coach in front of you. Now, the reason why I feel like medicine is not my thing and coaching is my thing is that because, the question that my professor asked, how are you helping with the quality of someone's life? Like, if you really want to help, and since then, my definition of helping people have become like, you want to help people, it has to do with their quality of life. If you can move someone from A to B, and the A is being their worst and B is something better than their A, then that is the kind of help and service I want to be doing. And a lot of people ask me, like, you wanted to help people, you want to serve people. Then I told them, I'm still helping people, I'm still serving people, just not as a doctor, but as a coach. So this is my story.
And the only part of that story I knew was that you were going to be a doctor and then you changed course.
Yeah.
Wise beyond your years, Suga, like you rightly said, so wise beyond your years. Like you knew exactly where you wanted to be, and to be able to follow that path So because I know culturally, we are, I would say, if you're not a doctor, you're not a successful professional. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So for you to stand up to that and then to become now who you are and coming, I would say, coming out a lot more into who you can also be, I think this is going to resonate with a lot of girls. Let me just say that. I do want to be gender biased over here, but well done, boss babe, total. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for sharing that story, for letting us know in it. It must not have been easy to share how the examination had to be redone and stuff, but yeah, very brave, Sue.
It's such an interesting story. And I'm like, when you told us initially that you enrolled in December, I'm like, what is this? Like, it's just like there was something happening out there just in that moment, right? Just, yeah, there's connection in there. You can't explain it. You just have to accept it, to be thankful and grateful for it. I think when I heard your story, to be able to step back from a moment and to really see from your perspective for what it is. And when you shared that, the first time you didn't pass your exam, and I'm like, oh my goodness, the first thing is I can't even imagine that moment, because even though you had chosen another path, it's still something that you go, I've worked all this time, and like you had everything you needed to. You didn't pass that because on that day, whatever happened, happened. But realistically, you had it all along with you at that time. You had passed. You just hadn't got the official whatever pass thing you had. And so I really appreciate you sharing that journey. It shows, like you were saying, that you are wise beyond your years in terms of age. I appreciate all of you for sharing your stories. I've learned a lot definitely from that. I'm not sure, Dee, whether you wanted to sort of sum this up for everybody.
Yes, I think I want to sum it up by saying just this one thing. I know I don't believe in coincidences, right? I don't think something like that exists for me personally, right? But all of us are a product of December 2020 being here. That's it. It's like universe has its mysterious ways of working, and we all trusted it somehow, somewhere, to whatever degree and intensity, right? And here we are sitting, years away from that, knowing each other for a very long time now. We literally meet every week for hours. So I think I spend more time with you guys online than I do in, people offline in real life, as they say. Um, but I think what struck me the most has been this, that one common point in all our stories was COVID December 2020. So, like I've always shared before, and many people may not agree with me here, um, I only have gratitude for COVID. It came to show, I think, us as humans a lot of things. And I think for the three of us here, and maybe many more who are watching, this video, it came to wake us up. It came to wake us up to things that we were sleeping on for a very long time. You know, we all found our meanings, our purposes, or the journey we wanted to take. So, yeah, thank you, both of you. I did not know so much about you, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. Yeah.
Bulgar, any last words that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's so, I'm just so awestruck at how life unfolds for each one of us. Like, three different people from three different places in the world who would have never ever collided otherwise are here 4 years later, going back and reflecting on the day, on the month that brought them together. I mean, all this while we knew that somewhat the stories were similar, or we had a similar framework, like Mamadi put it. But it's like December 2020, that was like so surprising. Like, what? Excuse me? Wait a moment. Something like that. And I'm like, I'm still in that, I'm still stuck in that I can't process anything else. Like, I know magics can happen, I know they defy the logics of life, but this is like so magical. Like, and I believe that today, as we share our stories, it will be a ray of hope to anyone who's watching to break free from their constraints of the familiar and venture into the unknown. Remember, deep down, I knew that I will not fail this, but in my mind, it was like, I don't know. I'm just going to try. I'm just going to test the waters and see what's there for me. Like, I've tried this so long and I've failed a few times. Now I'm going on my last run. So might as well take another leap of faith at the same time. That was the thought in my mind. And I was like, why am I postponing something that feels very dear to me? Not again. So I believe that, those who are sitting and watching this and thinking whether this could be the right decision or no, go for it. If it feels personally connected to you, there must be a reason. And, you will never know what is the reason until you walk the path. And I believe this gives hope to someone out there who's listening or watching these stories today. So that's from me.
It's so amazing. I love that summary. I mean, thank you both for sharing your story. I think, like you were saying, I think someone watching now, their story may not be to become a coach, say. Their story might be just really something different, like in their own journey. And it's those moments of listening to those nudges or those thoughts or those feelings where it's just about you. And I think for me, it was like that moment of just being, this is what I didn't need to have a PowerPoint. I didn't need to practice my enrollment call. I just need to talk about what I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. And it was coming from deep inside as opposed to scripted. And I think that was the first time I realized just how much our life is scripted and how we made to feel like following certain processes and doing certain things. And when it came to coaching for me, and I think for both of you, it just made absolute sense. And there'll be something there. And I think it's whatever that one thing is that just makes absolute sense to you. It may be to be a doctor. It may be to do these things or whatever it might be, but it will just make absolute sense and it won't feel hard. And that's when you just know, right? You just go, I've got to follow this path and I've got to, whatever which way. And it never happens the way we thought, but somehow we all connect. So on that note, as we go, like, thank you. If this resonates with you in some way, any of our stories or all of our stories, please subscribe because that makes a difference in terms of how we reach others and share this with more. And the link will be down below. Obviously, just hit the subscribe button. And the last question is like, do you think this chat is Clover or clever? And thank you so much for watching.